This episode brought to you by the First Amendment. I will have you know that I can sing as much as I want on this podcast, and there's nothing you can do about it.
This is Hot Drop, where we bring you a premier PUBG analysis and drops that contribute to the greenhouse effect. I'm Dano.
And I'm Cody.
And let's get into it.
All right, Dano. Episode 34, titled, It's Getting Hot in Mir amar, so let's take out the clothes. I feel like that's very funny. I'm a very funny man.
I feel like people need to know that title. That's too good. It's too good.
So, what do we have in store for everybody today, Dan?
So we have quite an action-packed show. We've got a lot of updates. We've got the Xbox people finally getting their prayers answered in the form of some decent updates. We've got some PC news, of course. We have the new Savage map going to be reopened again, and we'll give you some dates about when to expect that. We've got this new war mode that seems to be all over Twitter and all over Facebook and all over Twitch,
social
and YouTube,
media, in
social
general.
media, it's on everything. We're going to talk about that war mode and what we think that means for this game. We're going to give you a weapon spotlight, as always. This time, we're going to talk about one of the best sniper rifles in the game, the Kar 98. And then finally, we'll wrap it up, as always, with a John Makes a Great Point.
All right. So, let's start with Xbox update number 12, shall we?
Nice.
We've pulled out a few of the most important things here because there was a lot of little things that we felt you wouldn't necessarily notice, but the first and foremost being optimization. They have optimized the game, as they will continue to do, and that is just a never-changing game here with PUBG. They also fixed a serious bug that caused vehicles to flip or get airtime for absolutely no reason, hit a blade of grass, go flipping, flying wherever you want to, and die. Which I'm really glad that they fixed that, because they fixed that with the last update for PC, especially with that trike motorcycle, which was a demon spawn.
Yeah.
But that's a really good fix.
Right. Yeah, that was an ugly bug. We saw the results of that multiple times in person. I saw people, I think I mentioned it in the last show, people driving in front of me. I would see them just flip on nothing and die, and I was able to loot their bodies. Just a really bad bug. So they fixed that, which is excellent. But they also did some more things with vehicles this time around in the Xbox patch. And what they did was add more damage to characters in vehicle collisions. The heavier the vehicle, the greater the damage inflicted upon the player. So players are also now more likely to die or be knocked out when colliding with a vehicle running at high speed. So I think that this is a little bit different from the PC version, because I don't think there's been any changes in the PC version around this.
No.
But it looks like, again, they're doing more to combat the use of vehicles potentially throughout the whole game, but maybe specifically in the end game. Like, we've gone back and forth quite a bit about that topic, whether or not vehicles play a very important role in the end or they don't. But I think that they keep making these changes for that reason, because obviously they're looking at data and seeing that people are using vehicles a lot, and probably they're trying to run people down with them a lot. So I don't know. Like, it's tough because I don't play on Xbox a lot, and I'm not really sure what that meta is. But I think we've talked
Right.
it to death that it is a little bit different than the PC.
Yep. People like to tend to go toward cars, and they're trying to curb that, which is fine.
Right.
The vehicle passenger will also receive more damage when the vehicle crashes into an obstacle like walls and trees. Crashing into something at a high speed on a smaller vehicle, such as a motorcycle, the player will take a lot more damage, as it should. If you are unprotected by a roof or whatever, you should take more damage. I think this is the most interesting one, is that they had fixed the issue causing the 4X scope to be excessively reflective, a big flare on the lens, right? And the downward spiral, mentioned that a lot in our Discord, talking about how the lens flare was a lot worse on Xbox than it was on the PC, and they fixed that, it seems.
Yeah, very happy to see that one. They didn't notice. I didn't notice that so much on the PC side, but it looked like the Xbox, the lens flare was just a little bit too excessive.
Yep.
They also fixed some various controller things. They fixed an issue of the left trigger and right trigger scrolling not working in the inventory when using controller preset B. This is the biggest controller fix that I wanted to call out. There were some other things as well, and you can go read those patch notes for yourself to see those things, but they were relatively minor, though we did want to point this one out because we had mentioned this in a previous episode.
Yep.
They also added a new free crate, the Western Military Crate, and this can be earned with your battle points. And it's not much different than all the other crates that we've seen so far.
Yeah, they've added different tank tops, polo shirts, different eras of polo shirt, belts, camo tank tops, jackets that are cool, cowboy hats, things like that. And the spawn rates go from anywhere of 20% for the first four all the way down to 0.0064% for the military skirt in black and the cowboy hat in white. So these things are cool. You know, if you get them, if you're one of those people that likes to just kind of randomly buy crates, go for it. You have a really low chance of getting something amazing.
Yeah, they don't mention if there's a key needed to open these, so Xbox players, you might enlighten us on that. But it's just the cosmetics. It's pretty cool stuff. And, you know, I have no problem with cosmetics. If you want to buy them, you can. And if you don't, don't. That's pretty much my take on all of the cosmetic discussions that have been happening around the internet. The last part of this update, they mentioned that there are some more changes coming. They said they should expect some big news and content drops in the coming weeks. And we got a little bit of a taste of that in the form of a dev letter that they put out. It was like the next day, I think, actually.
Yep, it was.
It was a big, long letter, and we'll post a link in the show notes as always. And you can see that they're giving you some more information. Finally, like, we're getting some updates from them. We're getting a little bit more into the roadmap that they've been not so forthcoming with so far. They gave us the spring roadmap, but beyond that, we haven't seen details about when to expect certain things. And I think this is the first step towards that. Yeah, the roadmap to the roadmap. Assistant to the regional roadmap. This one has a couple big things in it, and I wanted to point out some of those. The biggest one being that Mir Amar is coming to the test servers before the end of April, and we will finally see it hit live servers sometime in May. So
That's
Xbox
great.
is getting their live server, or they're getting their test server too. That's another big thing.
And so this is a really great step for them, because this game has essentially been a full step behind everything that the a full 2 steps behind that everything that the PC is doing. So this is taking that step, because now we've gotten our update 10 for PC. Xbox is now saying, okay, we need Miramar. Everybody's playing Erangel to death. We need to be able to jump in and show them this other map. Even though Miramar isn't the most popular map with PC players, it's good that they're going to add this to the Xbox team, because they deserve to have the same maps.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait for all their Xbox homies to get Miramar. It's been far too long. And it'll just bring, like we keep saying, like the Xbox version will be closer to the PC version, and we can eventually merge those two production schedules together, and the similar versions of the game will be, being produced in parallel. But it's just about feature parity, and it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, and so when they update Miramar to the test servers, it is going to add a lot of different optimizations to this game, and two of which being the play-dohing in which that you would see on textures will stop happening as often, I think, is their anticipation. Not necessarily go away completely, but you won't drop into just a mush of clay buildings, essentially, that aren't fully rendered out.
Yeah, I saw that problem when I played on Xbox a few times. Just you hit the ground and everything's not loaded yet. It just looks like mush, and you don't even know where the door is to get in.
Yeah,
so
that was the worst thing for me before I'd upgraded my PC, was that
Yeah.
it could not handle loading in anything. And so while Dan would be covering for me, I would be running around trying to find a door that didn't exist, essentially.
Yep.
And it sucks the fun out of the game, and I'm glad that they are fixing this, because it seems like a really long time for this to be a problem on a console game.
Yeah. Agreed.
Additionally, the second thing is that character movement system was also causing some problems and has now been optimized. Performance and stability will be better, and when many players gather in one location, it will be less of a problem than it has been before. So overall, they want the mid phase of the game to be more smooth and less janky on the servers.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about, just optimization, smoothness, and no crashing is the last thing that they mention. Is they're going to minimize crashes as much as possible, and just make it so you can play a whole game without having to reboot your console. So that is a plus for sure. Literally unplayable. So that's good news. They're working on it. You can expect to see redesign and improved designs of the out-of-game menus and screens. And this, they say, this little tidbit hidden in the sentence, this update is necessary to prepare our servers for when event matches and custom matches are introduced later on. So sometimes they're not like immediately obvious with these bullet points. You got to read between the lines a little bit, and make sure you read the whole thing, because you might miss the fact that, boom, they just said they're bringing custom matches and event matches to the Xbox.
Let's talk about events, please.
Yes, perfect. Perfect transition into the event mode that we just played. And what do you think? What did you think about Tequila Sunrise?
Overall, I would say that Tequila Sunrise is a really fun way to make you realize how terrible you are with just shotguns.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it a lot, actually. It's not something that I think we could have kept playing round after round after round after round, but it's very fast-paced, all close-quarter combat. You don't know where people are, and you're scrambling because you're trying to find the better shotgun and all the meds.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first when we played, there was a bug that the meds didn't spawn in, and that was a pain. But once they fixed that, it was more of a scramble to get meds, because you would always get hit. You can't necessarily avoid shotgun fire.
Yeah.
And so that was the fun part about it. You kind of felt like it was really do or die all the time.
Yep. That was my feeling too. It was just a scramble, man. It was just a mad dash to get in there, get the gun. And then you're taking fire constantly, like you said, because even the people who have really bad aim in this game can still hit you pretty easily with the shotgun, with the spread on that thing. So
right,
we were just constantly under fire, and it was fun, but I'm glad it was only a 72-hour game mode, because I was pretty sick of it after a few rounds, to be honest.
Yeah, it just wasn't sustainable, because like nobody was good at it.
Yeah, it was
you
a
could
lot of
go
luck.
through and you could get lucky, and it was fun to play, but nobody could stay good at something that is so random.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And squads were good. It was good that they did squads, because solos, this would just be boring as hell, because you would just go in and die immediately. So it was good to have some backup. But it was an interesting dynamic, because you would come up to someone and they would be off in the distance maybe a little bit, and you couldn't immediately engage them because you knew that your bullets wouldn't reach them. And you also knew that they couldn't shoot you because they're using the same gun that you have. So it leveled the playing field in that regard. It encouraged closer range fights. And the other big thing it did was introduce the mechanic of having the circle appear immediately on the map before you jump from the plane.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this later, because they introduced this into the full game mode, and we'll mention that once we talk about the PC patches.
Yes, we will.
But,
so let's move on a little bit here to our next topic, that Savage, aka Sausage, the testing for that is coming back for a second time very soon here.
Yeah, very soon. So we've got some dates for everyone here. They just announced this yesterday that they're going to be reopening Savage, and if you don't have a key, they say that you can go to the sign up website. It opens on Saturday, April 14th, starting at 5 a.m. Pacific, and it closes on Tuesday, April 17th at 5 a.m. Pacific. So it's open for 3 days, and that's just to get your key. So once you have that key, you can go into the experimental test server to play Savage starting on Monday, April 16th at 6 p.m. Pacific, and it closes on Wednesday, April 18th, 6 p.m. Pacific. So just a couple days. We're only giving you 2 days to play on the Savage map, but I highly, highly, highly recommend you guys get in there and play it because I had a blast on it. I thought it was an excellent map, and I'm very looking forward to the features they've added since I've played it last.
Yep, and I don't even care if they haven't added textures or anything. Like I just want to get in, see what's changed, see how well, and get more people in there because I think they realized they did not get enough people to test it out, and they really want to move these tests faster. And so they want as many people in there. So go get your keys. If you got one before, you are still good. It still works. You're fine. Make sure you guys head over there and pick it up because we'd really like everybody and their mother to play this so that we get the best 4x4 map possible.
Yes. Yep. Because this is built with your feedback. So if you don't give them feedback and then you complain after the fact, well, you had your chance, you know? So get in there and share your thoughts with everyone. Share your thoughts with us too. Like pop into our Discord, send us an email, Twitter, whatever you want to do. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say about Savage as well.
Totes.
So on to the big stuff. Not that the other stuff wasn't big, but let's talk about PC Update 10.
PC Update 10 has done a lot, and like we are going to play tonight and Sunday, we are incredibly excited because they have changed the blue zone.
This is the biggest feature change, non-feature change if you want to get into technicalities. And this isn't a new feature, but it's the biggest gameplay change that we have seen so far, I think. This is going to completely change how you play this game.
So they are changing the delay in the blue zone between rounds, the speed in which the blue zone moves, and the damage that it inflicts upon you. And so over the course of the game, they have changed the waiting time for all of the blue zones, the delay between restructuring or whatever it's going to be called. It has gone essentially after the third round, everything is 60 seconds, where before it was 200 seconds, 150, 120, 120, 90, 90, and then 60. Now it goes 90, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60. And so the time of the blue zone being inactive and not moving is just reduced by half in most cases. And this game is going to move a lot faster. People aren't going to dilly-dally as much. You're going to be on the move more often. And I think that is their attempt to speed up that mid-game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We're seeing, like, I think I counted this up. It's like a 7-minute cutoff. Like they trimmed 7 minutes off of the game time just based on these stats here. They did, however, change the speed at which it moves, so that's going to counteract that a little bit. But just seeing how much little time you have between zones is going to make you speed up that mid game. It's going to make you loot very fast and then go hunt people or move to the new location very quickly. And it's just overall going to make for a quicker match from start to finish. Yeah. That's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, and some people were wondering whether or not this takes place just on Mir Amar, but this is across both maps, this specific piece. The blue zone is changed on both maps. However, they have allowed for a change in the Mir Amar map alone to have the safe zone viewable from the plane.
Right, and this is what we saw in Tequila Sunrise.
Correct. So from Tequila Sunrise and Savage, you can see where the first circle is going to be from the plane, and that's what they've changed for Mir Amar only. But the blue zone speeds, damage, and wait times are all across both maps.
Exactly. Yeah.
So onto the blue zone speed, however, they have sped up and slowed it down in different phases of the game. And so in the first 2 phases, they have sped it up in meters per second, a couple, and then following all of those, they've slowed them down. So in between, the blue zone will move faster for the first 2 rounds and then slower for the last 6.
Yep. And some of these, like a quarter of the speed almost. So we went up a little bit, like you just said, in the first two rings, and then the third ring, it used to move at 16.4 meters per second, and now it moves at 9.4 meters per second. So that's almost half the speed.
And so my guess for this is, so while the wait times are shorter, people are going to be able to stop and fight when the blue zone is moving instead of feeling like they
Yes.
have to run side by side with somebody and take some pot shots. It's encouraging you to take fights while the blue zone is moving and maybe use it more tactfully.
Right. This allows you to move with the blue. I think we talked about this for a long time on one of Lemon John's segments. He talked about how you have three options toward the end of the game, which is move with it, get ahead of it, or hang back, and that would you die. So this might allow you towards the end game to move with the blue, and that might be a more effective tactic this time. Because like you just said, you can take that fight, and you can get caught off guard maybe, and still have time to get to the zone after you win your battle that's right in front of you that you have no option other than to take. So this is going to change a lot of strategy from start to finish.
And following at the very end of the game, the blue zone damage, it only changed in the 7th, 8th, and 9th circle, which I think is their way of encouraging people to stop camping and move around more, because you would have people who might be at full health and take a couple shots from the blue during those last couple of circles just because they know they can do it. And this will encourage them to move more because the damage went up from 7 to 8 and then 9 to 11 and 11 to 14. So per tick, you're losing 14 every, whatever the tick is.
Yeah, I don't know if it's second. I think it's a couple
It's
seconds.
less than, I think it is actually less than a second.
Less than a second? Yeah, I rarely make it to the end. Yeah. I rarely even make it to that far because some games actually end at the 7th or 8th circles. Like to get all the way to the 9th circle and have it close in onto nothing is pretty rare. It's pretty rare for us to even get to the end anyway. But that's a lot of damage per tick, 14 per tick versus 11. Yeah. So that's going to really force you to move at the end. You can't sit in the blue zone and heal now, which I don't know if you were able to do before, but I feel like maybe I saw a video of that. But you will not be able to do that anymore with these changes.
Yeah, so I think another really exciting part about these end circles is final blue zone will narrow down to the center instead of narrowing down to a random spot. So the total wait time, including the blue zone, is reduced, but that last circle isn't going to be random, so it doesn't encourage people to wait for the circle because that you have to head to the center.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it gives you
and you have to go to it immediately.
Yeah, it gives you no short side to work with. You're never going to have the advantage that way.
And speaking of short side, they say that the percent chance of the extreme safe zone, so a safe zone very far away from the center of the previous one, has been reduced by 30%. So that means if you see the big circle in the middle game, in the mid game, and you can pretty much expect that there's going to be less often extreme circles after that. So that's going to help when you are caught on the very edge of that large circle and have to traverse a really long way to get to the next one, because there won't be that extreme distance anymore. But on the flip side, this sort of eliminates or potentially eliminates some of our short side tactics, which we talked about in previous episodes, because the distance won't be as extreme. There won't be a large long side and a very short side anymore.
Right.
But just that's the probability. There will be, but the probability has been reduced.
Right. So let's talk about the world a little bit. What did they add, Dan?
Yeah, we've got new locations in Mir Amar specifically, and they've done some other things to the map too, especially in the north side. So in the world, we see some new towns in the northwest. In the straight north, we have a new lake with some roads and towns around it. And on the east side, the northeast side, we see a whole road going up from El Azahar up to the Campo Militar, and also some locations along the way. So what this does is add more reasons to jump at the northern side of the map, and it also gives you more car spawns. So that is very effective at getting you out of those locations after you drop at them, because previously, I've seen some threads on Reddit, people saying, honestly, we could cut off a huge chunk of the outside of Mir Amar and no one would notice. Because no one jumps at these extreme distances away from the plane, because if you don't get a car, you're screwed. You have to sit there and you're stuck.
Yeah, we used to go to the ruins because I would make us go to the ruins, and nobody would get anywhere because we'd just be chasing the circle the entire game, because you literally can't find a car between ruins and Cobra Library or Crater Fields or anything.
Cobra Library.
La Cobreria.
La Cobreria. La Cobra Biblioteca.
Cobra Library. Or Ruins to El Pozo. So it was difficult to navigate those things and nobody ever wanted to jump. And I feel like not many people went to Campo Militar because there was nothing in between there unless you wanted to head southwest. And there was no reason to ever head toward Impala or El Azahar because there was nothing in between it.
Yeah, you're going to hit Tierra Blanca first, and then probably, depending on where the circle is, you're going to move all the way to the west. And the problem with how big Mir Amar is that if you land at Campo Militar and you get a circle that's on the west side, good luck. Like, have fun, because you're going to be driving for a quarter to 2/3 of the entire map. Like, you're going to be driving for like 10 minutes to get across Mir Amar, unless you take the roads, which are not the direct route, obviously, but you're going to potentially experience some fights along the roads. But you can't take the off-roading because it's too steep, it's too bumpy. You're better off taking the road and going slower, but having going faster, but having a better chance of encountering someone along the way.
Right.
But yeah, no. So these changes hopefully will encourage people to jump to the north side and see these new locations and hit a car where they see these new car spawns. They've actually labeled them on the map in the patch notes where the new car spawns will be. But they also did something else to the north side of the map. They increased the chance that better loot will spawn up north, specifically at the Campo Militar.
I was going to say, before that was the only place was Campo had good stuff.
Yeah.
But anything around that, you would pretty much find a lot of pistols and shotguns, and then you'd be screwed because then you're chasing nothing with nothing.
Yeah, that's the worst part. You land, you get nothing, and now you have to drive. But if you encounter a fight, you can't win it because you have
nothing. Yep.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool changes to this. We're really excited to hop in and play this stuff. They did fix a lot of UI UX stuff and bug fixes. There were improvements to teams. You can now send requests for invitations by clicking the invite button on another player's career screen, which you couldn't do before. So you're exploring other people. You couldn't send them friend requests. You had to go back and search from the main page. If you are a team leader, you can kick your team members now, which is something that should have come a long time ago. If somebody's got to go or take off and they didn't leave the team, everybody had to leave the team and start a new team. Now you can kick people.
And it's only if you're the party leader, which is a responsibility of one person. So you don't have to ask people to kick for you. You just have, one guy can do it,
Yep. And then you can kick any team member using the team tab in the friends list found at the bottom right corner of the screen.
Right.
Bug fixes.
Yep. A couple here. You want me to grab these?
Yeah.
So footsteps now always make a sound when walking on tarp or carpet. I haven't noticed that, but it looks like they're making sure that you can hear footsteps at all times. They fixed an issue causing some objects to become invisible at particular distances. Indoor plants should no longer block bullets. I had mentioned this to John. He was like, I would have been furious if that happened to me. Indoor plants no longer block bullets. Fixed and removed some weirdly placed road signs, plants, and stairs. Fixed an issue that broke the killer spectating function whenever the killer died too quickly after taking out the spectating player. And finally, fixed an issue that player takes no damage by exiting while driving if he was injured by vehicle crash before he ride on. That's the words. I did not make that up. By exiting while driving if he was injured by vehicle crash before he ride on. Who knows what that means?
Let's just leave that. We'll leave it. That's PC update number 10, guys. I'm really excited. We're going to move into some really cool detail about these updates next week when we talk about this. Please let us know what you think in the Discord. We've loved the amount of feedback that we've gotten this year. You guys are really taking off, and this community is growing, and we are really excited. So thank you so incredibly much.
Absolutely. Pop into the Discord. Let us know your thoughts on any of these changes that we have done so far. We've had some really good discussions this week. And one of those actually was about war mode. We didn't get into this too deeply in the Discord, but Cody and John and I talked about this a little bit. So this is a mode that we've seen come up in a custom game. You cannot get this game mode if you do not have access to a custom server, but you can join one if someone you know does have a custom server that you're allowed to join. And basically it's that you can parachute and quickly land at a location and then immediately engage in a team deathmatch. And there's a counter saying, oh, your team has lost the lead, your team has gained the lead. There's respawns every minute, minute and a half or so. And it's just a continuous game. As soon as you land, you already have a weapon. So there's no stakes. It's just simple land, shoot, die, respawn, done. That's it. And there's been some kind of conflicting opinions about this game mode.
Let's say some rumblings.
Some rumblings. I think that's a good way to put it. W2F Moses, who's a guy that we talk about quite a bit, is a PUBG caster. He's I don't know if he's a pro player, but he's a very good player, and he has a very good opinions about a lot of things. Did a video, and he talked about what this game mode was, and he talked about what it means for PUBG, and also brought up the idea that maybe PUBG is in a identity crisis, where it doesn't know if it's a survival game or if it should be a deathmatch style game. And basically what the introduction of this game mode means for the future of the game as a whole. And this brought up a pretty big conversation between all of us. We had some thoughts about this video. I thought it was a really well done video, so we'll link that as well. But ultimately, I think this war mode deserves a place in this game as a type of warm-up. I don't think it's going to replace the main game mode.
No, absolutely not. And I think that we've wanted a training scenario, and this is it. This is the one to be able to go in, use the weapons you want to use, die, repeat, you know. We needed a warm-up thing. People are going to like it. You're going to get in, you're going to feel good, and you go, okay, let's play and compete. Like, let's get in there. I feel good. I feel like I've gotten a few kills. I know what I want to do. And I think that that is key to the success of this game, is being able to practice more. Mm-hmm. Not take 2.5 minutes to get to the ground in a game and then die immediately.
And then have to go back to the lobby and then wait 2 more minutes. Yeah.
Correct. So being able to jump into a war mode, have fun with your friends, even if that's like what you want to do that day. Hey, I can only play for 20 minutes. Let's get as many chances to die as we can. Cool.
Yep. They brought up the idea of 2 types of people in this game: the survival players versus the combat style players. So John had some thoughts about this, and he said that he thinks that maybe having the war mode is the deathmatch is the warm up, and then there could be rankings on the normal mode to give you incentive to play the normal mode. So at first you jump into PUBG and you want to warm up before you start playing the real game. The war mode is your way to do that. Some people like to play this game hot. They like to jump in, they like to get as much action as they can, and then they like to just get out and get into the next match if they die. And dying doesn't really mean much to them. But then on the other hand, we have people who play this game from start to finish. They camp very slowly, they play slowly, they hide out in bushes, they hide out in houses, they move strategically from location to location to try to stay alive as long as they can. And that is a legitimate way to play this game. So we have sort of 2 different player personalities that all are trying to vie for Bluehole's attention and want the game to be catered to their specific needs. But I think this game can be both of that. We could have these game modes to be able to jump in and quickly get your fix when you want it, when you have a little bit of time. But if you have a lot of time and you want to play the classic game mode, that still has a place in this game as well. I don't think that there's any kind of identity crisis happening here. And I actually think that saying that might be slightly clickbaity. I don't know. That was my initial reaction when I read that headline.
I would agree, but I mean, I don't think he intended it to be clickbaity.
No, I will be honest. I do not think he meant for it to be that way. I agree.
No, I think that it was very much like, okay, PUBG, what are you doing with this? What are your intentions with these things? Let's talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I agree with actually some of the points that he makes, but overall, I think that it will not change the identity of the game. So
I agree. Yep.
Yep.
And every single multiplayer shooter has these multiple game modes. We have Call of Duty and Battlefield. They both have basically the exact same mechanics. They're a shooter and they're World War II, and they all have the same game modes where it's team deathmatch, King of the Hill, capture the flag, like all that kind of stuff. Like, those games can have the different game modes and do all of them well. Mm-hmm. They serve a different purpose. They're for different audiences. You know, you can have multiple communities or multiple play styles play the same game and enjoy the same game. I think that separating those two player bases is a bad idea. Because some people have thought about, separating it into a casual game mode versus separating it into a classic competitive game mode. And I don't think the game is ready for that.
I don't think they're ever going to separate them. I don't think that's ever their intention. I think Brendan Green knows what he wants to do. And while he is taking feedback from everyone to make the game better, I really don't think that he's ever going to bastardize the way that the game is. I think that he, over time, will be testing things out and taking them out and putting stuff back in. And because he's got his own plans for the way that he wants stuff to be. And I don't think that they're going to split the audience.
Yeah. But they would be foolish to do that. I really believe that.
Yeah.
So I think in sum, I can just say that the war mode, my bold prediction is that's going to be the next event mode, because we saw the flare gun come to custom game modes first before it got pushed to an event mode. So I have a pretty strong feeling that the war mode's coming next, and that it's going to be your deathmatch. It's going to be your warm-up. Eventually, they'll add this to the game when it's complete and when it's polished. But I don't think we should read into it too much at this point. I just think they're experimenting and they're trying to, like we've said previously, catch up with Fortnite just a little bit, get some feature parity with them.
So
and
why don't we
play? One more thing I just want to say is I don't play this game for deathmatch. I play it for the adrenaline of the end game, where you're super, your hands are shaking because you're so excited that you might win a match after playing it for 30 minutes. Like that's my game mode, and that's what I think they will stick with that, because that's the heart and soul of this game.
Yeah, for sure. So let's take that and use it as a jumping board to talk about our question of the week, because I would like our next week's question of the week. What are your thoughts on war and its role in PUBG?
Love it.
So let's talk about last week's question of the week. How about that? How about that?
How about that? How about that?
We had full auto versus burst versus single shot, and we had a lot of feedback from everybody. Covering the span of the entire week. We had a lot of people kind of just jump right into all of this and kind of give us their take on what they think. And a lot of you actually shied away from full auto, which I thought was pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. A lot of you said that you would rather stick to single shot and a lot of mid-range or even close quarters things, because auto didn't seem as reliable as you wanted it to be without the right optics. Mm-hmm. Right. Reaper34 said to answer the question last week, full auto using a vector with full attachments, because in close quarters for him and even at medium range, the recoil is very minimal. So ripping through a target takes next to no time. And I would agree with that. With a vector, there's no recoil on that. You can control that all day.
Oh, yeah.
But some people were saying, like on Xbox, they stick with single shot because it's too hard with a controller to be precise and adjust to the recoil and compensation of the gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had some other people say the opposite for a controller. Kyler said that he prefers full auto and he feels that he is able to control the spray when he is using his controller to thumbstick to pull down as he shoots.
Yeah, and he keeps bringing up that Call of Duty and Battlefield, he's always in full auto, so that gives him enough game to really be able to compensate for those, because I think that those guns are also pretty realistic when they come into gunfight games on console. Mm-hmm. And it's probably pretty similar.
Yeah, you get trained with one game and you kind of can use those skills going forward into the next game that you pick up.
Right. And Pumpkin Pie Eater says full auto only with a compensator, though. It's single fire when it's silenced, and burst fire, why? So I'm actually pretty partial to burst fire when it comes to the M16, and that's it. Everything else is I'm trying to work on my compensation for the auto fire, which I am getting slightly better at, but I tend not to go single shot unless it's a sniper or you don't have a choice.
Yeah, burst is that good middle ground, and I sort of bashed it a little bit last time in the last episode, but I actually used it quite a bit last weekend when I was playing and was very effective with it. Just the 2 hits, 2 to the chest and 1 to the head. Nick in PDX says the full auto is good for short range, single for long range, but burst is the best. And I think he might have been the only one who strongly preferred burst. Yep. But I can see what he means. It definitely has a place. It's a very powerful selection. If you want to just get those medium range shots off, boom, 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 you can put a lot of bullets on really quickly.
Yep. I would agree. So thank you all for your feedback. I'm gonna keep working on the things I'm working on to compensate for auto, and my opinion might change in the future. But for now, I'm sticking with burst on the M16, and I will continue to try and wreck some people with full auto.
Yeah, you got to That's the next step for you, man. You got to work
Yep.
into the full auto, and to be able to control it is going to make you a beast on the
Even if
battlefield.
what I've noticed is that like now I go, okay, I'm gonna just keep it on full auto and try and get somebody who's moving, and I find once you shoot off like say 6 rounds or whatever, holding the click down, you then start to slow-mo the compensation, and you try
Mhm.
to pull and adjust, and that kind of like gets you in the zone a little bit when you're shooting 10 rounds at a time and going like pulling your mouse down or left or right trying to compensate. That's when it kind of tunnel visions a little, and you go, okay, I got that, I can fix that, I can adjust accordingly every
Mhm.
time I go to shoot. So it's building my confidence a little bit, even though I die quite frequently.
Yeah, right. And for me, it's like I've just focused on pulling down at the same rate regardless of what weapon I have. And I think that's the first step to this is use your single fire for medium and long ranges. But as soon as you're up close, switch over to full auto and just practice against a wall before a game starts. Actually, we don't have weapons in the early game anymore before you land. But like in the middle of a game, just practice against a wall, shoot down, see where the bullets go. And that's the only way to really train yourself. You've got to get that muscle memory to
Yep.
be able to control it all the time. But there's a couple more people I wanted to point out quick. We have one player, his name is Draven. He says that he's an Xbox and PC player. He says that single fire in fields with high visibility to reduce wasted shots from the longer trigger pull of the controller. So that's interesting.
Interesting.
So the controller, the physical thing they're using to shoot, potentially has an impact on what you would select. That's a pretty interesting point of
That's
view.
an intuitive thought.
Yeah, very intuitive. I would never consider a controller or mouse and keyboard having any difference in what mode I would select. And he says full auto within 30 meters of any large cover or buildings and towns. He says this on Xbox, but on PC, he's full auto all the time. So it does change your style of play depending on what device you're using. Thought that was interesting. And then we also have a mobile player, Turbo Unicorn, says he or she suspects that full auto on mobile has less recoil on PC, so they leave it that way unless they're trying to engage out past 75 meters. They say they plan to do some recoil tests the next patch when there will be a training mode, which we're keeping an eye out for those mobile patches. Hopefully that will be coming to that
Yep.
mode as well.
Very cool. Thank you for the feedback. And again, get in the Discord. Leave us your opinions on this week's question of the week. What are your thoughts on war mode and its role in PUBG?
Excellent. And now we've got a couple more segments. We're not done yet. We've got a weapon spotlight. And this
Weapon spotlight.
Can you sing it for me?
Weapon
Carabiner 98 curse.
Carabiner 98 curse.
Wow. So we've got a 7.62 bolt action sniper rifle. Everyone who's watching the show knows what that is. It holds 5 rounds and takes a barrel stock and sight attachment. It takes everything from a red dot up to a 15x, and it has an internal magazine, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But for barrel attachments, it's the usual flash hider, compensator, suppressor. Nothing fancy here, nothing you don't already know about or
However,
can use on other weapons.
there is something they don't know about, Dan. It is
Potentially.
not worth it to put the compensator on this weapon.
Don't do it. There's no reason to. If you have a friend with another sniper rifle that's semi-auto, give it to them. Because the compensator does nothing. It's only good for decreasing spread on follow-up shots, and you can only shoot one shot at a time with the Kar 98, so don't use it on a Kar 98.
Because you
it'll do
literally have
nothing.
you have to stop aiming down your sights. You have to take 1.9 seconds to reload, and then you come back. So the compensator does not work that way.
Exactly. 1.9 seconds per shot, or between shots. So that's just a heads up that is the downside of some of its positives, which we'll get to in a second. It also takes a stock attachment in the form of a cheek pad or a bullet loop attachment. The cheek pad reduces your recoil kick and your sway, so when you're aiming down the scope, you have a little bit less sway, and when you shoot, it doesn't jerk up as hard. And the bullet loops decrease reload speed by 30%. And I think it's rare to find both, but Cody, which one would you prefer given those two options?
Uh, cheek pad? I think cheek pad.
I think cheek pad.
Yeah,
It's gonna help you aim.
It makes you feel safer. You trust your shot more. Um, but that's a tough choice, really. It is.
Yeah.
I think that
It's pretty rare to get both of those. So, but
yeah.
sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens, and then you're like, okay, I don't really know, because it is sometimes very helpful to have a faster reload. Because if you, so we're gonna
End game.
perfect
Because
example.
the circles are closer, and so you don't have as far to shoot. So you think that your recoil is not really going to matter, and the sway is not going to matter, but you need to reload faster.
And John has a very interesting point, which says, I mean, he always has interesting points. Some of them are great.
Occasionally, Dan thinks some are good.
Yes, sometimes. He says that you should keep both cheek pad and bullet loops because you can easily switch back and forth when you're on the PC. So when you're going to reload, switch to the bullet loops. I mean, this is like next gen strats, so I don't know.
That is next gen.
Know.
Oh my, Jonathan.
I don't know, but I do personally keep a red dot at all times if I have a 4X on my SCAR or on my other AR. So it's possible. It's possible to switch back and forth quickly. It's an uncommon spawn. Seems to me it's rarer than the assault rifles, but it seems on par with the other DMRs like the Mini and the SKS.
I would say we find the Mini a little bit more than both the SKS and the Kar 98, but
yeah, I think they're probably pretty close, but I would agree with you. It's single fire, it's bolt action, 1.9 seconds per shot. So it has an internal magazine, so you can't put a extended mag or anything like that on it. But what it does is have a stripper clip, and that's a real term. It's a real thing, a stripper clip. It holds 5 bullets at a time, and if you reload when you're at 0 rounds remaining in the weapon, it'll use the stripper clip and quickly reload 5 in one shot. So 5 bullets in the gun, boom, done, fast reload. But if you wait and you shoot off 4 rounds and you're down to 1, it's going to take you a lot longer to reload because you have to chamber those one by one. Not chamber, but put them into the weapon one by one. So pro tip would be to fire every round before reloading for some quick reloads. So damage, what does it do? So it does 45 damage to a level 2 vest, but it does 112.5 to a level 2 helmet. So it is a 1-hit kill to a level 2 helmet, but it's a 3-hit kill for a level 2 vest. This is what its ultimate strength is right here, is the 1-hit kill to a level 2 helmet.
Being able to take someone down with a headshot. To be a precise player with this gun gives you the advantage in almost every situation.
Every situation.
It's a 2-hit kill to a level 3 helmet. So if you can pull off a second headshot before they get a chance to heal themselves, you're golden. If these people are already somewhat damaged and you're in the middle of a firefight, you can take them out with one shot, even if they have a level 3 helmet. So.
Right. Or a 1-hit helmet with a level 3 and then 1 hit to the chest or legs or anywhere. Headshot, body shot.
Yep.
Yep.
And you can tell what shot you're going to want to take first. You can see people with the scope that have a level 3 helmet on. That allows you to go, okay, now I have to adjust my gameplay right now.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to see it is really key.
Definitely.
So what is our way of using this gun, Daniel?
My preferred method is the 8X, always.
I know you do. I don't get it.
I love the 8X.
I can work with it, and I'm trying to get better, but that 4X is just key all the time. 4X is the sweet spot. Being able to zoom in with the 8X, I guess, if you're into that kind of thing. But boy, that 4X just is really easy to maneuver. It's good mid-range. You can use it mid-range and not feel too close.
Mm-hmm. It does do very well with the 4X. I agree. But it also kind of depends on like what situation you're in. If you're with a squad or if you're with a solo or a duo, I meant to say. Because I don't know, if other people on your squad have 4Xs and they're on their ARs, I would definitely prefer to have an 8X on my Kar 98 for that longer range shots, or even just being able to scope people out and see them easier. I would pick the 8X pretty much in every situation, to be honest.
I mean, you're better, so I guess I can't judge.
Don't get down on yourself.
I mean, John has a lot of stuff to say about this. This is really his weapon anyway.
It totally is. Like, he's our go-to guy with this. But I think an interesting thing to mention is what would you keep as your secondary if you have this? So What do you think? What would you take?
It's always going to be an AR. The second that I find a sniper, I'm going to find an AR first, but the second I find a sniper, I drop whatever else I have and keep my favorite AR. So you're using your AR for mid-range and close range, but also if you need something that's automatic, you don't have to switch between them. You keep your sniper and you keep your AR.
So it depends here with a squad, especially for me. I would sometimes, if given the option, I would take a Vector as my secondary. If I've got 3 guys backing me up and they have dual ARs or AR SMGs, I'm probably going to grab a Vector because I can be disgusting with that gun up close and still have the ultra range and the one hit potential with the Kar 98. So it's almost like a shotgun and a Kar 98. The Vector is very similar to a shotgun, I would say. I would still probably pick the AR. But if I had to and given the option, some games I might grab the Vector if I have the option.
Solid.
So I think that wraps up our weapon spotlight on the Kar 98. Next week, we're going to be covering a pistol. Not sure which one. And you guys will be surprised when we get there. I always like a little bit of mystery. just a little bit, not too much.
Just an international man of mystery.
That's what they call me.
That's what they call John?
They say other things about John. They say that he has some points.
Mm-hmm.
And what point will he be making this week?
This week we are talking about the way that we play and our slang for playing aggressive.
Interesting. I wonder what that slang is. Here's John to make a good point.
Daniel.
Yes.
It's a great point.
Damn it.
He makes a great point.
John, make a great point, please.
All right, so today we're going to talk about being penisy, which is something that Dano says a lot. It can also be referred to as being aggressive, basically making a confidence play. So what does that mean when we say it on stream? It's basically when somebody like Dano is feeling really confident, feels like they can take a disadvantageous situation and win it outright, usually without team support or something along those lines. So it can be like rushing a building where there's multiple people, or somebody just has the advantage, like camping a spot. And I want to talk about what effect that has on the gameplay. And sometimes when you see it, you just think it's a bad play. And sometimes it is, but sometimes it's your confidence coming in. So I wanted to see first thoughts from you guys. Being penisy, being aggressive, good or bad thing? Dano?
So yeah, we have to say that being penisy is a direct relationship to being cocky. That's what that means.
Don't get penisy, kid.
Yeah, we're hilarious, and that's just what we say. So for me, there's a time and a place for it, for sure. I usually say it out loud when I realize that I'm doing it and I shouldn't be. That's kind of when I notice it. And when I do it and it turns out to be a good play, or when I don't think it's a disadvantageous position to put myself in, I never say it because I don't see it that way. Right. But I think you could say you can be cocky and confident at the same time. Yeah. I usually say this when I'm all right, I'm just going to rush this building. Screw it. I'm just going to bust through the window. YOLO. Or I say it when I'm going for a care package that I shouldn't be going for, which is lately far too often, I will admit. You don't always need the best weapon to win the game, and I need to get that through my thick skull, but that's on me. But Cody, what do you think about this term as far as the context of how we say it in the stream?
Yeah, as far as it goes, according to my gameplay, I feel like I take more advantage of using it and getting penisy more often now than I did when I started.
Definitely.
Because I need to be able to play more aggressively, and that's a thing I've identified that I need to work on. And so I have been real shitty lately. Some of that is a little saddening and gets me a little disgruntled, but I know I have to start taking chances or else I'm not going to be better. just the other day we were playing and I literally could not spot that guy that you spotted immediately, and I had to like dance around and I still died.
Right.
But that's because like I'm super timid about like being wrong in the game and not like paying attention to my mini map and my compass while I'm changing my loadout at the same time. And you guys have gotten really good at that. And so I will know that you guys are engaged in something, and you'll say the guy's upstairs, and I will almost every single time feel I can go up there and take that guy now. Because I die anyway, so what's the point of me dying and not trying than going into this building and getting penisy and getting wienered?
So I want to point out something that I've noticed is, Dano, you said you started saying it more lately, which is true, but when you first started saying it, it was only after like dying from an aggressive push, and you would say, got too penisy. So it made it kind of a negative thing, but I don't think it's fully negative. Like we were talking about it in conjunction with confidence and, you know, just being aggressive. And those things can be negative in the wrong spot, but I think they're actually a really helpful, you know, feeling, a push, a boost to get you to make those miracle plays, basically. And like what Cody is describing is basically our early gameplay. Like we came in with the shooting mechanics, and then we started getting penisy pretty quickly after that. Like I would say, I don't know, maybe 50 hours in or something like that. So I think what Cody's going through is kind of what me and Dano already went through, which is like basically testing the limits of our skill ceiling. And that's I think part of being penisy is like, there's a guy up there, I can take him. Like I know I can hit my shots, and like, you know, maybe 50% chance that he has a similar shot to me, and I can go up there and I can just take him because he's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really helpful thing for a player to get used to and to try out. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. And it gives you that ability to work on specific pieces of your game. If you choose to be cocky and you choose to run into a building, you work on your corner turns, you work on your accuracy in close quarters and things like that to be able to adjust to your gameplay later on. It's harder to do in teams, but I think it's more advantageous in teams than it is in solos.
I think it's also more penalizing because
Definitely.
being down a man is really rough. So if you don't have your team backing you, it's really hard to kind of make it worthwhile if you're going to just do it, especially if you have like an advantage over the enemy already.
Yeah. You're screwing yourself more in solo, and it doesn't matter as much. But yeah, like what you said, testing the limits of your skill ceiling, I think that's the key for me. It's like that's how you get better when you test those limits. If you're always playing safe and not getting penisy, and I'm cracking up every single time I say this, if you don't test
sounds
those,
so dumb to say it.
It really is.
When we repeat it, I'm like, oh man, it's actually it's pretty dumb. Why do we say this all the time?
We could just say cocky like normal people, but no.
Or aggressive.
This is the
We
Hot
can just
Drop
say,
podcast.
like an aggressive play.
Why does everything need to be about penises?
Yeah, weird. We say that all the time in the stream too when we die. We got wienered. That's like a colloquialism, I think, from where we grew up. Like my dad says that. Like when things are broken, it's like, it's wienered. Like if you take your car in, like, and your exhaust is hanging out. Let's see that your exhaust there got wienered. That's hilarious. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, you want to keep testing your skill ceiling because that's exactly how you get better. And I think you nailed it on the head with that one. Yeah, I don't know.
So no, it's really good. And that, go ahead, John.
My next thing was going to just talk about like when this is appropriate. So like,
yes,
we're saying it's not a bad thing. Is it always a good thing? Again, the answer should be pretty obvious. No, it's not always good to just be super aggressive and, you know, throw your life away, especially if you're playing with a team, right? You have to know when your sacrifice is worth the advantage you will get. So if it's like 4 versus 1 guy and one guy's camping a house, there's not really a good reason for you to throw your life trying to kill this guy because he can just like down you and kill you before your friends rescue you. You want to play it smart still.
Yeah, this is an example of a situation where, say, you're working together as a group of four, but then one of us, like me, for example, calls out that there's someone in the house right in front of us. And I'm like, I'm going to get penisy. So I run up the stairs after him, like without any kind of backup. He kills me and then kills me fully. So now we're down to 3. And like that was completely a waste of a life. So like that's the kind of the team situation you're thinking of here?
Yeah, exactly. Like that is a bad example of when to, you know, get aggressive on this player.
However, a good example of that is you are in a top 6 situation. There are 4 of you and 2 of them, and you know that they're on a team. One of you should probably get penisy and go up there and try and take one out so that at least we know where they are.
Right.
Yes.
Or try to run across the no man's land to figure out where they're going to shoot from. That's a great way to play aggressively and know that you're giving up what you need to do with the chance that you might get that kill. But you know that your 3 other teammates are going to pick it up anyway, and you'll win.
Yeah,
okay,
baiting is a legit strategy for sure.
Totally agree. You have to make sure that your team knows what you're doing and like knows where you are, because this is something that I love to do. That like in a lot of my wins, especially against the last player, if I have a Car 98, I will hard peek them and like try and bait their shot on me because I know that I can usually get the best of them. So it's something I do a lot in solos, but something I definitely have a tendency to do closer to the top in teams is like just try and find the player and then hope that my aim saves me. And it works out quite a bit when I get to that point, but sometimes it can screw me over like mid game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing, especially when I'm playing solo. Is I see where someone is and I just stand there. I just hold my ground and I wait for them to take the shot because I'm not getting aggressive in the form of running at them. I'm getting aggressive in the form of the stance I'm taking on this fight. You know, like I'm setting the tone. It's like I'm here, like you have to take me out because I've got you lined up. It's the confidence that you're going to hit the shot before they hit you.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing pretty well with recently. And yeah, it does screw me over sometimes because there are hackers and there are people that are better than me. Yeah. But if I trust myself, I feel like more than 50% of the time I'm going to win that fight. And I think I probably proved that by my kill death being higher than 1, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I don't like to brag or be, toot my own horn too much, but it's just the fact of the matter is if you take a more aggressive stance, you're going to catch people off guard and you're going to scare them. And that's like one of the biggest things in this game. People are scared to die in this game. Yeah. Is they see a gunshot or hear a gunshot and they see the bullets hitting the wall near them, they panic and they start running. And you have to use that to your advantage. And sometimes I do this even if, say, John is downed around the corner and he says, oh, he's just coming over to finish me off now. I might, even if I don't have a shot on the guy, I might just spray randomly towards the house to scare the dude, to make him think that I've got a line of sight on him. And that might be enough to scare him off and have him not murder you outright. It rarely works, but it's like, why not at that point, you know? Like if you absolutely really desperately want to save your teammate, I think that's a legit strategy. Yeah. But yeah, back to the aggressive thing, I think not enough people play aggressively. I think a lot of people run scared throughout this entire game, and they don't want to lose the progress that they've had, and they just, they panic when they see gunshots.
That's what I've been working on lately, is just trying to do it, and I fail a lot. And thank God you guys are nice to me, because like I've been doing it a lot lately of just dying, even if it's early game, and then I sit here. That's kind of my punishment, is I sit here and I watch you play, and we're streaming and I don't get to participate. Yeah. So it's on me, but
that's eventually the thing. You're testing your skill ceiling. You're testing the limits of your skill ceiling, and you're doing stuff that you shouldn't do and you might not do in a solo game. But if you wanted to stay alive for the end in that solo game, but you also know that you have our backup. And you know that even if you put yourself in a bad situation and go down, there's still a good chance we could save you. And that's what you need to look at towards your teammates if you're the new guy, or if you're the older guy who's been around and doing this a long time. Like, look out for each other, you know? Yeah. Like, have each other's backs, because that's the only way to survive.
So the last point I kind of want to bring up is related to skill ceiling, and it's the confidence boots, like hot hand. Not necessarily who's got the hot hand, but when you make these aggressive plays and they pay off, it keeps boosting your confidence and kind of feeds into the circle of aggression. And when it kicks off, it's just like, it's an insane like adrenaline rush, and also your skill ceiling can like just blow up
Mhm.
We've seen Dano do it a ton. It happens to me occasionally. Like I'll hit a couple of sweet shots and then just get super confident and want to take on the world, basically one sniper at a time. And it's just, it can really unlock like your full potential, or it can completely tank your game. But I think it's really important to do these plays and try and make them in order to, again, just kind of see where your peak is and feel it out and get used to that feeling, and have it be more consistent, eventually make it more consistent as your normal play style.
Yep. And as time goes on, you see what that ceiling is, and then you push it a little bit higher and push it a little bit higher. And then you realize that, okay, no, my floor has been raised because my ceiling is rising as well. So you'll go into those fights more confident. And we keep saying this over and over again, but that is such a key to this game, is just confidence and not being scared.
Yeah. And to pair that off, you still have to be smart. You have to play smart with your confidence, but when you do it more often, you have like a better concept of what those boundaries are, so you can play within those still. So that was it for me. This has been me, John, making a great point.
Oh, that was magical.
Pure magic.
John gets his own segment. He gets his own intro music and outro music.
Not 50% of the company.
Oh God, so good. I think we can wrap it up, man. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's hop into some games here. Thank you to everybody who is listening. We just keep setting new records for our downloads each week, so we appreciate everybody who is downloading this and listening, both live and on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher. You guys this is the highlight of our week here, being able to do this podcast for everybody. Thank you. Please hop on to iTunes and all these places. We are on Spotify also now, so give us those ratings. We really appreciate them. Hop into our Discord. There's a lot of good conversation going on in there, a lot of really good people to hang out with and chat with about this game and random other things too. So we appreciate you. We're going to go try and play some of these new updates now, and we'll let you know what we think next week. Until then, Dan.
We will see you in game.